Meta Reality Labs, its XR division that's in charge of VR, AR, XR, has reported a revenue down of 26% in the third quarter. Now, of course, news sites are jumping on this as bleeding cash and loses $3.7 billion, flailing metaverse. But before people get too alarmist about it, a few factors to consider here. Surprisingly, Meta itself actually reported a really good quarter with 23% up in profits, 164% in net income. And this is the quarter that ended on September 30th. Weeks before the Quest 3 launch, and when everyone who knew anything about the industry was holding out waiting to see what the Quest 3 was going to be like, whether they wanted to actually buy one, and people were even holding out on buying games waiting to see which ones were going to be Quest 3 enhanced. This is something Meta was expecting, especially as they've said before, the metaverse bet, or probably now they're just calling it the VR, AR bet, was going to take huge investments. They were planning on profits being down in that division for up to a decade. The numbers that'll be a lot more important to see how healthy VR is doing for them will be this quarter, now that the Quest 3 is actually out, and that will be compared to the same quarter last year when the Quest Pro had launched. What do you think about all this out there? Does it still feel like VR is always being called dead in the media? Does it seem like media have accepted it more? I feel like I don't see as many of these articles saying it's failing and falling apart as I used to, but it still does happen. The Quest 3 is going to continue getting better, and if you're someone who has stuck around for all of the Quest generations and lives, this isn't something that's that surprising. There's been something like 59 software updates now in the Quest realm. When the original Quest launched, they didn't even say it could ever possibly work with a PC through a link cable or through air, which was a wild thought back at that time. And I remember once saying on Reddit that I thought, oh, they'll probably eventually get the Quest to connect to PC, and just got roasted in the comments. They wouldn't do that. They would have told us ahead of time if that was a plan. Anyways, we've seen that the Quests have changed a lot. Even the Quest 2, from the time it launched to what it's running now, has been updated a lot and is looking like a much better headset. Now, Boz, the CTO at Meta, has said that Quest 3 Passthrough will actually improve modestly over time with software updates, saying that basically as they get more real-world lighting conditions and information, the headsets that have been picked up, they'll actually start to tune the algorithms to make it drive it more effectively. This is interesting as we've seen people jumping to both sides on this, some saying the Passthrough on their headset looks really good and they're really happy with it, other people saying they can't even read their phone through it. One of the most interesting posts I saw was someone showing two different images of their same Passthrough on the same headset, where one looked arguably clearer than the other, meaning some of this distortion and issues they're having could be on the software side and not the actual sensor itself. As we've seen with the Passthrough, if you're holding your phone dead center, you can actually pull it up and look through and read, but if you move your phone off to the side, you might get into that distortion zone between the cameras, and it's much clearer where those distortions are if you're close to the headset, or if you're looking at a full wall away from you, it's much harder to see where anything's distorting. We've also seen where that SDK came out that we reported on recently, where people could actually start having their hands show up in front of mixed reality objects instead of always defaulting behind, no matter how far away the mixed reality object was, suggesting that through software updates and experimentation, all of these features might continue to get better on the Quest 3. I don't know if we'll see as big of a jump as the Quest 2 that went from 72 Hz when it first launched up to 120, but it sounds like the Quest 3 will continue to improve through software updates. What are you hoping to see improve through software? I'm hoping if it's possible to see a little bit of battery life improvement myself. Speaking of the battery, we saw in iFixit's teardown how the battery takes up most of the front visor space, yet they did not report in that video how much it weighed. When they were asked, they did report back that the battery itself weighs 64 grams. That's about 20% of the total headset, making some people wonder why didn't they put a bigger battery in there, since that's not really that much of the weight. Maybe thinness was really what they were going for when they built the headset. Maybe their target weight was the same weight as the Quest 2, and they did come very close to that, only going over by a few grams. The battery itself is actually a much more powerful battery with 19.44 watt hours versus just 14 in the Quest 2. But as we've seen, the battery life, depending on how you're gaming and what you're using it for, has been subpar compared to what a lot of people were hoping with it. Obviously, if they had relocated the battery to a better strap in the back like the Quest Pro did, we could have had a bigger, better battery. The problem being, I think they were really trying to hit that sub $500 price point, and to do something like that would have driven the price up further. People have been figuring out how to squeeze the batteries extra. People are saying you can disable the hand tracking, lower the brightness, or even spotting a new low power mode that you can actually enable, which basically does those exact things. We covered a lot of testing in our battery testing video where we were testing external packs and seeing where a lot of them weren't working out. I'll leave a link at the end of the video in case you missed that and you want to check out more details about that. But definitely at this point, we're looking for some good battery straps to help us out with that Quest 3 life. Still a surprisingly untapped market for VR is sporting events, especially live sporting events where you can feel like you're courtside courtside in your VR headset. This year, the NBA announced that it's actually going to expand the number of games it's recording for the Quest headsets by a wide margin, and these are 180-degree immersive games. Now, these are only available through NBA League Pass subscription, whether you're doing it through X Stadium or through Meta Horizon Worlds. They dropped a full schedule with games it looks like every 3 to 5 days all season. That is over on Road to VR. I'll leave a link in the description of that if you want to see the full list. Remember that unfortunately, X Stadium and NBA League Pass VR are still only available in the US, like too many things at this point, like Horizon Worlds. Sporting events are a great use of VR if it's something where you can hang out with your friends who also have headsets, although if you try to do this at home with just one VR headset and all your friends over, it can feel a little exclusive, leaving all of them out of the headset or trying to pass it around and also watching the game on TV. But for faraway friends who love sports together, it is a really cool thing to do. More and more, we're seeing VR treadmills make it closer to home for everybody, and with that, the new VR treadmill from Virtuix, their Omni One, is available for pre-order starting at about $2,600. Basically, at this point, the entire VR treadmill world is two names. Omni is one, they were one of the originals to market, and then Cat, which makes the Catwalk C and other ones, have been the ones that have been a little bit more consumer friendly in price. Earlier this year, Virtuix did start shipping the Omni One to investors, but now they are saying that general availability of pre-orders has begun and deliveries are going to start in Q2 of 2024. They do say that the $2,600 price tag can be as low as $70 a month on the payment plan, and the headset includes the treadmill and a Pico VR headset to pair with it. An interesting choice since Pico headsets still aren't available in mass in the USA. VR treadmills are still a very hotly searched topic, so what do you feel about them? Would you be interested in taking the plunge and spending all the money to get one, knowing that it's mostly going to be working with PC? Or are you interested in this kit that comes with a standalone headset now so you can potentially play it directly on that? I unfortunately have only gotten to try the original Omni, which was a bit of a clunky device. I'm interested in the Catwalk ones myself or this new Omni one, but it is something you got to have space for it, space to store it. It's definitely not for the casual VR gamer. A lot of Apple Vision Pro information is still only coming from analysts' claims at this point and rumors, and one of those rumors before was that the Apple Vision Pro would have full body tracking using its downward facing sensors. The information originally from Wayne Ma has now been changed, with Ma claiming that they were working on this, but they cut the full body tracking several years ago because engineers couldn't make it reliable enough. Of course, Apple only announcing so far hand tracking and eye tracking are the ways to use this headset, and not confirming any plans about controllers or even potentially using the Apple Watch as some sort of controller. It's interesting information to think about alongside how Meta is actually trying to make full body tracking out of the Quest 3 sensors internally, and then algorithms that also predict where your legs are going without being able to directly see them. It's unclear how much of this is actually true or confirmed about Apple, but the fact that they haven't brought up anything about full body tracking makes me think at launch it will not be a feature. If Meta has a breakthrough on this like they seem to be working towards now, and the demos so far look pretty good about how the full body tracking is working, maybe it will be something Apple will add or finish working on their own. A welcome change to Steam VR. Version 2.0 has finally dropped for all users. This was available in beta for the last month, but now the full feature has released on October 26th and now features a new UI and some other new features. Valve had said that version 2.0 was the company's first big step in a larger ongoing effort to better unify the Steam ecosystem for all users, providing a more consistent experience across devices. This, of course, referencing the Steam Deck and just the Steam app itself, and if nothing else, the new keyboard does look a lot more modern. There is a whole long list of improvements that this actually dropped for Steam VR as well, along with a lot of bug fixes, which is definitely welcome. What's happening in your VR world that's got you most excited at the moment? Quest 3 is out, lots is going on with that. We've been doing all kinds of testing to see what we can find out about the headset. If you missed any of the reviews or any of the things that we pointed out, we'll leave some links up here for you, along with that battery issue I was talking about before. This month has been just absolutely wild with growth with the channel, all of you showing up and supporting, so thank you so much. I'll see you in another reality.